Welcome everyone, it's brilliant to see you all here today. I hope you've had a chance to look through some of the showcase already, and if you haven't got to see every project, there's plenty of time later on after this event, before dinner, to then go and see some more. So, we are standing here in the middle of London, known the world over as a centre of financial excellence that has changed the world down through the centuries. We are also here today gathering the UK's AI and robotics research community, which is known the world over as world leading. When you bring those two communities together, there is the opportunity to unlock the brilliance of the phenomenal researchers that we have in this country, to go on a journey from ideas in the lab to building the world of tomorrow. And that is what we're here to do today. That is what AIR24 is all about, is bringing that research community and that commercial opportunity together. And so it's a privilege to welcome to the stage Director of the TAS Hub, Gopal Ramcharan.
It's going to work. Good evening, everyone, and thanks, Ben, for this very kind intro and great opening. I'm Gopal Ramcharan. I've been running the TAS Hub for the last 4 years with an amazing team. I'm really grateful to have you all here today and really excited to see the startups that have emerged out of our Accelerator program. I'd really like to thank the whole team, Florence, who kickstarted this idea with us, and then and thank you so much to Future Worlds for backing this and helping us deliver this program. We started back in 2020, funded over 70 projects, and we thought, what can we do to accelerate the impact of all the great AI and robotics research that goes on across the UK, and not just limited to what we've done in the Trustworthy Autonomous Systems Hub and all the projects that have been funded just in our hub. So what you'll see today is the whole AI and robotics community brought together through the UKRI networks, the UK RAS network, and others, and the best ideas that have come through a process involving over 50 teams that have been filtered down to the best 8 projects, and there will be others that you'll see outside who are still maturing, and we hope we can support them further down the line. I'd really like to thank our funders, UKRI, and now leave it to James Draycott, Head of AI and Robotics at UKRI, to talk a bit about how they see this event and other events like this accelerating the impact that we are trying to achieve. Thank you.
Trying to work out if this works. This works. So I won't keep you long because I'm no doubt the most boring thing to be on this stage throughout the entire day because I'm the funder. But James Draycott, Head of AI and Robotics at EPSC, part of UKRI. We're one of the largest public funder of research and innovation in the UK. And we've had a focus across critical technologies, including AI and robotics for, well, since our inception, actually, over 20 years ago. But actually, over the lifetime of UKRI, over the last 4 years, have been supporting programs including Trustworthy Autonomous Systems program, Robotics and Autonomous Systems Network, AI hubs, really to try and make sure we can find the best of UK researchers to work on some of these really critical technologies that will help drive the world forward. But actually, it's how we link into that broader ecosystem, how we realise value from some of that research and get it out into the wild, get it out into driving social and economic good for the UK. And it is through events like these, the boot camps that have been run, the programmes which really try and push the envelope on how they bring together the best of researchers, the best innovators and the best companies that can really start to make a difference to the UK and how it operates. And it's been really refreshing to see the fresh approaches taken by the Trustworthy Autonomous Systems programme, the partnerships they've shown with Future Worlds. I think this is a really good example of how we can start to really build momentum in the UK and really found a new industries here which will build the economic value of the entire country. Thank you very much. Ben.
Thank you, James. Without money, the wheels don't turn, so definitely not the most boring thing on stage. And in fact, what you're going to see for the rest of the day is people asking for money, not dishing money out. So I want you to be ready to receive their ask, to receive their questions. Now, everyone knows that at the moment, every startup is an AI startup. Every startup has got some kind of AI angle, and the reality is that it's become a buzzword that everyone wants to talk about because they think it is the way to raise money. And the great thing is that ChatGPT will even write your pitch deck for you so that you can go to the investors with this perfectly manicured pitch that is just set to launch you on the road to fame and fortune. But of course, we all know that if you really want to change the world, then starting with a buzzword is not the place to start. starting with revolutionary technology that has been developed in the lab, revolutionary technology that is the forefront of where the technology is going. That's where you need to start. And with tech visionaries who understand how that technology can be built out into the future, who may or may not know where the commercial journey leads, but they certainly know how the tech can define what will happen tomorrow. That's the place to start if you want to build the world of tomorrow. And that is why we're so excited in this partnership, because we have brought together this incredible community of phenomenally talented researchers in AI and robotics, all of whom are bringing years of capability, millions of pounds of funding that have brought them to this point, and are now at the point in their journey where they're saying, where can we go? What is the opportunity? How do I move forward from here into a commercial venture? And so they all want to engage with you. And the key way that I want everyone to engage today is by getting their phones out and scanning that QR code, or going old school and going futureworlds.com/ask. So if you go onto that URL, it is a really simple form, and that is the way that we want you to ask questions this afternoon. So we will not be doing hands up and microphones coming around the room. We will be doing all of the questions through that form. So I will keep on talking until I'm seeing phones scanning QR codes, giving you the time to make sure you're set and ready to ask questions. So that is the primary way that we want you to engage. We are keen to hear from you today. The startups are keen to hear what your questions are so that they can answer them on stage. So that is the way to ask questions. And I will give you a little bit more time. And I will bring that up. Between every pitch, I'm going to broadly say the same thing. I'm also going to say this. So if you want to follow up with any of the people that you have seen on stage today, then scan this QR code. Again, it's a different form. It's a simple form for you to say that you would like to follow up. So you can share your details and giving us permission to share them with the team so that you can then have an ongoing conversation. But more immediately, the easiest way to do that is going to be straight out the back of the door. As soon as this event is finished, we're going to be going back into the showcase rooms. We're then going to be sticking around for a lovely dinner this evening. So it'll give you lots of opportunity to talk directly to the people in the room. So ask questions, connect with the startups. We have seen time and time again how incredible the opportunities are that are created when people like yourselves in this room come together with people like these that are going to be pitching to you. The possibilities are endless. And so, without any more delay, I'm going to welcome to the stage our first startup, which is Aaron, Libor, and Boramand.
Hi, I'm Aaron, this is Boramand and Libor, and we're CardioVolt.ai from Imperial College. Heart disease is the world's biggest killer. It claims one life every 2 seconds. And as a heart doctor in the NHS, I see every day the big problem, and that is late detection. We find heart disease when it's too late to do anything about it. But there is a massive missed opportunity. The ECG, or the electrical heart recording, has been around for over 100 years, and now we have it on our wrist. Over 200 million of these devices, smartwatches and wearables, exist around the world. And in healthcare settings, ECGs are performed over 300 million times a year around the world. But even experts like myself can only gain very limited information from an ECG, and this is very limited. Applying AI to millions of ECGs, we have developed technologies that can provide consumers longevity metrics and healthcare providers the ability to identify hidden heart disease years before it's detectable by doctors. For example, you might go to your GP, have an ECG, and be told everything is fine, it's all normal. But then a couple of years later, you may be diagnosed with a serious heart condition. We can detect that early before doctors.
We've already been approached by 2 interested licensees, both coming to us with the question of why can't they use this now? For our beachhead market, our revenue model is simple. We'd partner with wearable companies and license out software development kits or API access. in return will take a proportion of their annual revenue. Our primary market is B2B. We're targeting a massive $240 billion medical device industry with a promising $25 million obtainable market. For our long-term secondary market, starting with UK healthcare and expanding worldwide, we're looking at a much greater obtainable market of $350 million. So we've applied AI to ECGs, but so have others. You have tech giants such as Apple and Google, and healthcare-focused players, Anumana and Ensight AI. So how can we stand out? Well, unlike our competitors, who are focused on diagnostic models, we've gone beyond. We can detect heart disease in the future from normal heart tracings. Furthermore, unlike our competitors, we've derived meaningful longevity metrics. Putting that all together, we're offering what others are not. We also have the world's largest diverse data set of over 5 million labeled ECGs from across 4 continents.
We are a world-leading team of clinical academics from Imperial College London, with expertise in AI development and a deep network in the NHS with over 40 years of combined clinical experience. We have attained widespread academic recognition, having published in top medical journals, as well as having secured over £2 million in research funding. We have also won numerous national and international awards in our fields. This recognition also extends to the media, with coverage of our superhuman AI by some of the top UK media outlets, sparking significant interest in our work. We are now at a stage where we have developed and validated our model. As interest in our technology grows, we will seek in 2025 commercial partnerships with the key industry leaders in the wearable market. By 2026, we plan to have completed software and API development, as well as prospective clinical studies. And by 2028, we envisage full UK healthcare integration, where we can see our software embedded in every single device that can record an ECG. We are looking for commercial partners to help us with implementation and validation to help identify consumer needs. We are also looking for funding partners to help us with software development, healthcare regulation, as well as finding an external experienced CEO. Since the start of this presentation, 120 people have died due to heart disease. Just for context, that's probably everyone in this room. Join us and help us change it. Thank you very much.
So to remind you to ask a question, please hit that link and submit your questions so that we can ask them. I can see a few have started to come in already. So I can see that Chris Lowe has asked a question. Please go under the bonnet and explain why you are superhuman AI. It's a bold claim.
Thank you. So as a clinician, I learned to read ECGs in medical school, and we look at hundreds at a time. Our AI is trained on millions, more than any clinician will see in a whole career. And this allows the AI models to find subtle signatures that are just not possible to be conceived by humans.
And I can see that Fred has asked, how will this impact the NHS?
Thank you. So take one disease, heart muscle disease known as heart failure. We can detect that early, start medications that can prevent people from being admitted to hospital with that disease or even dying. Just one person diagnosed in the community instead of hospital also saves the NHS £2,500 just for one person.
I can see Joel has asked the question, are regular smartwatch wrist HR sensors good enough for this kind of application?
Thank you. So specifically, we're looking at electrical recordings, so not just a heart rate, but for example, an Apple Watch Series 4 and onwards can take a full ECG, and these are good enough. We have applied our models to these. They are high enough quality to be used in this way.
Great. And Nitish has asked, what is your IP? What will prevent other people from copying this solution?
So our unique aspect, which has some technical IP around it, is future prediction of diseases. And there are some specific architectures that we can discuss in some detail, perhaps afterwards, if you would like to know more about that.
And Kumi has asked, will this AI replace humans or augment cardiologists?
Thank you. So this definitely can't replace humans. We're looking to predict the risk of something happening. It's then up to clinicians and cardiologists to decide what to do with that, what tests to do, what treatments to provide to prevent that risk being manifest.
Great. And Graham has asked, how will you address the privacy concerns that come with sharing health data?
Thank you. So I think that partners such as Apple and Google have started to address this question. One way is that any kind of AI that's applied to ECG tracings would be done in a fully anonymous way, so we wouldn't upload individually identifiable data to the cloud service where this models would be run. But that's something that we are very interested in preserving.
Great. And Alexander Crespi has asked this question. Can you explain your proposed revenue model a little bit more? You're selling the use of the model to wearable manufacturers, e.g. Apple, is that correct?
Correct. So I'd be happy to discuss that more afterwards, but that would be the revenue strategy for the wearables market. For the healthcare market, we'd be selling a similar type of model to healthcare services such as the NHS or around the world, because we believe that we can save costs as well as save lives.
And Chris has asked a good buying signal question. How much are you looking for, and is this an angel round?
So we're looking for investors towards the start of next year, around the region of 300, 400,000, but we'd be very happy to discuss that in more detail afterwards and the specifics around that. And angels is an angel round.
Great. So definitely lots of opportunity to talk directly to the teams in the rooms afterwards. So Abby has asked a question. How were your models validated? How long were the patients followed up for?
So we have data for about 20 years of follow-up. So these are retrospective cohorts, so data that's been collected over many, many years in 4 continents from around the world, and a total of 5 million ECGs from over 2 million people.
Great. I'm just going to ask one final question, and that's from Nitish again. Where are you on the regulatory approvals roadmap?
Thank you. So we're relatively early stage. We have the data required for a 2A approval, and we're starting the process of applying for those regulatory approvals with the MHRA, EUC marking, and the FDA.
Fantastic. Aaron, Libor, Buraman, thank you very much indeed. A big round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.
So a reminder, this QR code, the Connect form, is how you can log your interest to follow up with the team, but also make sure you go and speak to them afterwards and ask all of those extra questions that there wasn't time to field. And so now, moving straight on to the next startup, it's going to be fairly quick paced. You're going to have to keep up. I'm going to welcome to the stage Radu and Tunde.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tunde, and I've been practicing medicine for 32 years. I'm a consultant in the emergency department on the NHS, where today, like every single day on the NHS, 21,000 patients will wait for more than 4 hours before they get to see a doctor. Another 4,000 will get tired of waiting and then leave the hospital. Many of these patients come to harm, as you can imagine. Some of them die. My staff members, they're frustrated, they're burnt out, they're leaving, they're going to Australia, Canada. This cycle, this vicious cycle, is ensuring that we continue to have loss of patients and loss of staff, loss of money, and we're losing face. This is a crazy problem. This is an impossible problem. But we've come up with an audacious solution. We've created an AI-enabled robotic system that can work alongside our doctors and nurses in the emergency department, like science fiction stuff, but this is real. I give to you Daisy. Daisy is an AI-enabled robotic system that can attend to patients and triage them, up to 100 patients every day, working tirelessly, no breaks, no holidays, no romantic liaisons, no boyfriend, no girlfriends, just work. Radu?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rado, and I have led research and development projects across industry and academia for 25 years. And this behind me is Daisy in our labs at the University of York, just before its recent deployment for a clinical trial at Scarborough Hospital. Daisy has a social robot that guides patients through the triage process. It has medical devices for measuring vital parameters, and it has a user interface for collecting patient data. But more importantly, all these components are brought together by our innovative AI engine that is using these components to generate a patient report that is sent to the medical team.
So currently, our workforce has got all these gaps in it. You all know about them. By deploying DAISY, we can fill some of these gaps. By filling the gaps, we can reduce the burden on the health workers. We can reduce the burnout. We can reduce the long waits that is so detrimental to our team. People have reacted. Healthcare commissioners are excited about this. Our colleagues are they're happy. They think this is revolutionary. And doctors from all over the world think that DAISY brings a much-needed hope to a dire clinical situation. And for us, what do we think? Well, we're a team of experts, a few decades of expertise in between us, and we've managed to create this venture, this system that we think we know will revolutionize the way we practice. And we've managed to deliver DAISY into a hospital environment on a trial basis where she will be she will be helping our clinicians look after patients. Like two midwives delivering a baby, we have delivered DAISY into a hospital, and that's why she's not here today. Right?
We have already made progress from a visionary concept through research and development to a DAISY prototype that is now deployed for a clinical feasibility study. Starting at the beginning of 2025, we will refine this prototype. We will run a fully fledged clinical trial and deploy it at A&E departments within the next 3 years, and in the longer term, also at care homes and GP practices. Here's our ask. We have already made good progress with DAISY, and this was through using funding from research grants that we secured ourselves. Now, for the next stages of DAISY, we need another $1.5 million coming from a combination of private investment and further research funding to fund the staff, the equipment, the clinical trial, and the costs that we have. So please do join us in mitigating this significant crisis that is faced by emergency care that affects everyone. And we thank you very much for listening and look forward to discussing our DAISY project with you throughout the rest of the day.
Thank you very much.
So, again, click that QR code if you're not already on the Ask form. We want to hear your questions. I can see there are some coming through already. So Flavia has asked the question, what additional information will DAISY collect from the patient?
The DAISY follows the same step that we follow in the hospital. So the first questions we ask you when you come through the emergency department are your demographic questions. So DAISY will get those questions. The second questions will be your symptoms. We have an innovative interface that we've designed that will guide the patient, just like the doctor or nurse will ask you. So DAISY asks all these questions. The other information are collected by the peripheral gadgets, the blood pressure and the thermometer and all the things that we use in the hospital. That's about it. All the things that a doctor or a nurse will ask you are the same things that DAISY will ask you, except for DAISY can speak many languages when it's fully completed. You just choose your language and you speak to DAISY.
So you covered some of the questions. There was another question around specifically vital signs. Could you unpack specifically kind of the vital signs that you would be able to measure?
Right, yeah. So the reason doctors can be doctors and nurses can be nurses is that we combine what the patient tells us with what the vital signs machine tells us. So DAISY will guide the patient in using the vital signs machine. They're the same ones that we use in the hospital, but they're modified to make it easy for the patients to use. So instead of wrapping the blood pressure machine around your arm, there's one where you can just put your arm into it. So DAISY guides the patients to go through all the vital signs that a doctor or a nurse would like to collect from the patient.
Great. And C has asked the question. I'm not sure who C is, but you've talked about staff reactions. How have potential patients reacted?
Well, okay. So before we came this far, we did what is called patient-public involvement. So we have, do you want to talk about some of the involvement? So we have interviewed loads of patients. We've published papers on patient reactions, and we've taken the initial reaction into producing this stage of DAISY. So we have spoken to patients along the way to ensure that we address all their anxiety before we got here.
This was a key factor into obtaining ethical approval for the clinical trial currently in progress. Having discussed this with patients, the public, and medics as well.
And it's certainly one of the things we've loved seeing is this collaboration between a medical professional and an AI research professional and bringing those two worlds together to create this. Finn has asked, this is a detailed question. He starts with saying, love this idea. The question, though, is how have you accounted for different factors such as age, sex, ethnicity, etc. in DAISY's diagnostic model, including inherent biases in current research and data, accepting that humans carry bias too, but hoping that DAISY could be better? I guess this is a question for you, Radu. Sorry, Tunde.
Happy to answer this question. So we are taking actually into account through our domain knowledge collected from medics, all these factors, and they feed into the decision-making process and into the generation of the report that DAISY is producing for the medical team. And we'd be very happy to discuss this in further detail at the session following these presentations.
Sorry, Tunde, I cut you off if you had something you wanted to say.
No, on the similar there, but yeah, you can't really remove bias from clinical diagnosis. There are doctors in this room. You have to exhibit a degree of bias because it is good for your patient. Vindictive bias is what we don't want. Because the way the DAISY software has been written, we have written algorithms based on how doctors and nurses use the algorithms, if you see what I mean. So DAISY is not coming up with ideas that we haven't told her to come up with. Everything that she does, or that DAISY does, is strictly to medical rule. Just like a doctor is not expected to break the rules of the medical college, medical council, DAISY is not allowed to break these rules either.
Great. So I'm going to ask one final question that actually three people have asked. So Chris and Henry and Daria have all basically asked, how much is DAISY going to cost, and what's going to be the ongoing costs for a hospital?
DAISY is going to cost in the region of 45,000 to produce and deploy at a hospital in the fully fledged version. And the ongoing cost will be minimal to the order of 5K per year. And we will also have a version of DAISY that only will be using the tablet version, and that will cost £15,000. And that is the version that we envisage deploy at care homes, at GP practices.
So compared to staff costs, dramatic reduction in costs.
Absolutely.
Even from year one. Tunde and Radu, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. And so a reminder, connect through that form, connect with the teams afterwards in the lounge after the event. So we've had two healthcare-focused startups. We're going to have a third healthcare-focused startup before moving into another area. So it is a pleasure to welcome to the stage Edward Meinherz.
Good afternoon. My name is Edward, co-founder and CEO of Gnosis Health. We deliver digital technologies that help empower people to better manage chronic disease. We're starting with Parkinson's. Parkinson's impacts movement, cognition, and quality of life. Yet patients only spend 30 minutes a year with their consultant. That's it, 30 minutes. This is not enough time to manage a complex condition like Parkinson's. Meet Maxine, our conversational AI that provides daily care support to patients through smart devices and uses wearables to provide real-time health data. This data is provided to doctors who are able to get timely alerts and develop personalized care plans. This information also helps patients better understand what's going on with their condition. Parkinson's is the world's fastest growing neurological disorder. $45 billion was spent in the US and UK alone last year on care. There has been never a greater time and need for cost-effective and efficient solutions to address this debilitating condition. The cost of Parkinson's is attributed to, on one half of it, to inefficiency. improved disease management would lead to optimization in medication distribution, reduced hospitalizations, and empowerment of patients, which is our fundamental mission. The challenge with the current landscape of solutions for Parkinson's is they focus on segments of the care pathway. The difference with Maxine is that we look at the entire pathway through an integrated platform linking hardware, software, and process to enable an entire journey for a patient with Parkinson's, instead of a fragment of the care pathway. We offer a software as a service model targeted to pharmaceutical companies and NHS trusts, and a pay-per-patient model which focuses on improved outcomes and cost efficiency. Our 3 clinical trials have shown evidence of clinical impact and cost impact. We've taken our cost model and iterated that with trusts. Participation in this program and Harvard's Innovation Labs Accelerator has helped us develop our market proposition. We've achieved medical device registration. We've completed a pilot in Plymouth. And in 2 years, we target 2 more NHS trusts with strategic partnerships to help bridge adoption. And in 5 years' time, we target to move to the US and other key global markets. The rise of chronic diseases have put now the time for real-time care and real-time patient engagement. Gnosis is leading the way through the development of platforms that reduce costs and improve outcomes. I bring 24 years of experience as a technology executive focused on global programs. My co-founder, Gerald, our CTO, is an expert in machine learning and data engineering. And together, we're taking our experience in working on large global programs to build a team at Gnosis. Our technologies are built on 5 years of R&D, focused on real-time data exchange, patient engagement through AI, and fundamentally clinical feedback loops to ensure our product iterates and is strong. This is going to be the future that enables us to take this technology and generalize it in the future to other chronic diseases as well. We're asking for £3 million to support further product development, expand our team, and to grow our product to other markets. We believe that this investment would empower us in 5 years to gain $50 million in revenue in subscriptions and enable us as a leader in chronic disease management. Imagine a future where chronic disease is managed by daily 24/7 care instead of fragmented care as exists today. We at Gnosis are leading today, and together we can work together to create care which is personalized, proactive, and patient-centered. Let's make something happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. So again, make sure you're hitting the ask form to ask questions. I can see Flavia asked a question. I think you've possibly touched on this already with it and may have answered some of it, but are you currently testing with the NHS? How much would this cost to the NHS, and really what is the business model?
Yes, so we're testing right now in University of Southampton, Plymouth, yes. So that's the answer to the first part. And how much it will cost, so I'm going to cringe back on my academic background, it depends. And it depends on the context of the trust. We want to develop a model that it looks at the regionality of where the care costs are and ultimately show and prove to the trust that this is saving money. And that benefit that's derived from saving money would be in the core subscription costs. But the details of the pricing model, I'm happy to talk through during the break.
Great, and it's a related question, both Chris and Charlotte. Basically asking, how is this going to make money? Chris saying, 3 million, that's a punchy ask. Do you have any revenues already, or when do they start?
So we don't have any revenues yet, but the value of the product that we put in place and the cost savings that it's generated within research have enabled us to have discussions with the trust that we're working with right now to say, how are they going to pay for it when the trial that's funded by research is over? So that is what gives us the confidence that we have a model that we can export to other trusts and ultimately make money.
So Kumi has asked a tech-focused question. Is your tech dependent on a particular LLM, Llama, GPT, Claude, or abstracted for your general AI?
It's abstracted and using learning that we have predicated within the system. So Part of the back end, which is important, is the way in which the clinical decision support has been enabled, and that's been trained by work that we're working with our clinicians to ultimately take the variables that this data set is taking into place and understand what those mean. So that's the IP, really, and then ultimately that's abstracting the models that we're using to interpret the system.
So Paul has asked the question, what is current feedback from trials and how is product feedback being integrated into your product iterations?
So working with this population is challenging because of the diverse of age and the adaptability of using technologies in this way. So we've learned a lot about how to take devices like smartphones, tablets, and smart speakers and work with a population that's not using them in a dynamic fashion. So that feedback has helped ultimately iterate the product, and then we've used that to gain data on how feasible and acceptable it is.
Great, and that's somewhat answered, I think, Sky's question as well in there around, given that the Parkinson's patients are typically older generations, how acceptable to that patient population is that digital tech and wearables, which is great. Henry has asked a related question, though. How are you handling patient data?
So how we're handling patient data is all this data that we're using, a data set is aggregated to train and retain in the system, and that's secured. There's a combination of patient data that gets stored within the system, linked to individuals, and we protect that complying with ISO 2700 and set regulation rules that we've put in place following information governance.
Great, and one final question, this one from Abby. What other chronic disease areas are you considering?
So we're focused 100% now on Parkinson's, but the key benefit with this is there is a rise of chronic diseases all over the world. So in the future, we're looking at common diseases like obesity and diabetes, but the model that we put into place has extensibility to a myriad of cases. Our ambition is to take this platform and perfect it for this model, but then have one that could be extendable to these other conditions.
Edward, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. So a reminder, make sure you connect with any of the startups that are interesting, either in the room or through the form. And of course, the form is a great backup to also talking to them in the room, just to make sure that your details are passed on. So that's 3 incredible health tech startups that you've seen. We're going to transition now to a very different sector, more into infrastructure and sustainable energy. It is a pleasure to welcome to the stage Michael Short.
Hello everybody, I'm Michael Short. I'm an associate professor at the University of Surrey. I'm going to talk to you about our software product that will revolutionize the biogas sector. So what is anaerobic digestion? So anaerobic digestion takes things like animal manures, food waste, and energy crops or crop residues, and through a biochemical process in something called a digester, we turn this into products. These products are organic fertilizers that can be used to add nutrients to the soil, as well as green gas, which is the main revenue driver. This green gas replaces natural gas in the gas grid, creating energy security within the UK, as well as a green form of gas to power our businesses and heat our homes. If you add CCS onto the system, or carbon capture and storage, you actually generate negative emissions from the system, which is something that is needed in the UK to meet net zero goals, which you can sell on carbon markets. In Denmark, 32% of all gas in the grid is from anaerobic digestion, mostly from agricultural residues like manure. In the UK, it's less than 1%. However, worldwide, there's 130,000 digesters and in a market of $65 billion US. But AD is highly inefficient. This is partly because it's one of the least data-driven industries that I've ever come across in my 10 years of optimization in the chemical industries. And the main reason here is because it's a very complex feedstock, and it's a very complex reaction system with many microbes that do the hard work for us. So it's very experience-driven. And the central problem here is really predictability out of the system. And if we can predict, that means we can make better decisions all along. And that's where we come in. We are AI for AD. We're a group of biologists, engineers, and modelers from university and industry. That's most of the team standing in front of about 100,000 tons of maize getting ready for being digested at one of our partner sites. And we're developing software solutions for the biogas industry. So the AI for AD platform, it digitalizes the AD industry via advanced automated optimal decision making, all based on an optimization platform. We provide predictive maintenance and fault detection through a suite of uncertainty-aware hybrid AI models. And this hybrid aspect combines mechanistic models with pure data-driven models, giving us some trust in the model outputs. And we also use real-time sustainability and economic metrics so that you can, in real time, optimize these as your objective function. So this ultimately means less downtime, fewer sensors because we're able to fuse data from across the sites, and fewer experts, and this is crucial. In India, for example, they're planning to build 3,000 digesters by 2030, and because it's an experience-driven industry in the past, we're going to struggle to have the number of experts we need to drive this technology out, and our software can help deal with that. We see that we can get up to 20% more gas on a site. This ultimately drives 15 to 25% more profit per site, as well as 15 to 20% lower emissions because we're basically getting more gas out of what we have. This ultimately can get us up to £800,000 per site per year. There's 730 sites in the UK, ultimately unlocking around or over £120 million per year in the UK alone. Our team includes academics, engineers, software developers, and so on from a number of universities. And we're working with some of the largest biogas producers in the UK currently, and we basically will have, by March 2025, we'll have our first demonstrators on 2 separate companies, 2 different sites, and our partners between them own 50 sites. The goal is to have our software out on about 50 sites by 2027, which we think will generate around £2.9 million of revenue from revenue sharing, uplift sharing agreement with costs of under £1 million. And by 2030, we're hoping to reach a global market, reaching these, there are 20,000 digesters in the EU alone, and this can generate significant revenue if we get this right as a software as a service business. Ultimately, why we're here today is we're looking for advice and experience. We're also looking for an external CEO to help us along our journey because we're mostly academics. We're also really, really struggling with the demand right now. We've got many, many sites approaching us, throwing data at us. We've got some consultancy agreements, but it's not a scalable model using the university infrastructure, and that's why we're looking for £300,000 worth of investment to hire developers, firstly to build an interface so that we can ultimately get to that software as a service model, but in the short term, we're looking for also modelers to just help us handle the demand that we have right now. And we're also looking for legal and insurance support. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Michael. So, reminder, you know what I'm going to say. Get those questions in through the form. There's a couple of questions already starting to come in. So I can see Melanie is asking, how easy is it to onboard a new customer?
Yes, that's a great question. So we've actually, just this morning, I had a call with a new customer, and our modeling team were able to basically give results within a few hours for initial results. However, this obviously doesn't include kind of the real-time assistance that we plan to do in the future. So it's basically training models on historical data. So typically, I would say that we can onboard a new client within a week or 2 currently, but we can obviously speed this up as we develop the product.
And Fred has asked a related question. How much does a site implementation cost the operator?
Yes, so at the moment, we're kind of doing this on a site-by-site basis with our various clients, and it depends on what the ask is from the client. Typically, we're looking at somewhere between £5,000 to £10,000 startup fee, and then we normally, our aim is to have kind of a subscription model from there, probably something, at the beginning, there's quite a lot of manual involvement, so you might have the vision is one modeler basically in charge of 5 to 10 to 20 sites, depending on how it goes. And then, in the end, we're looking for a full kind of software as a service solution where, one modeler might be handling 100 sites, something like that.
So it's more manual at the moment while you're perfecting the product,
Absolutely.
but it's going to become more automated and self-service. So Chris has asked the question, how many of the team are full-time? What is the cash burn right now?
Yes, at the moment we are fully funded by UKRI, and then we have a few consultancy projects that we're kind of running at the same time, and this is why this is hence the need for a larger team. So all of our researchers basically are doing consulting kind of on the side, and we're basically mostly, and they're all full-time on our team. So I think we've probably got the largest AD modeling team in the world. I would probably say we've got about six. We've got 6 full-time postdocs, we've got 3 PhD students, and about 4 academics in small amounts at the moment within the wider team.
So translating, I think that's thank you very much, James. You're paying for it at the moment, but now you can buy into the commercial model, which is great. So Ashok has asked a question, can your solution transform food waste for smaller food producers, or is it only really for large corporations?
We certainly could work with smaller producers. We have a food waste site that we work with just down the road here, actually, and they are, I mean, I guess maybe we can talk about this separately, because we are actually in conversation with, in Africa, there are many, many small digesters, and we're very interested in using this data. We haven't worked so much with these small digesters, but there's no reason it wouldn't work. And especially because small digesters often have very small teams, so it just depends on the cost-benefit ratio, I would say. But there's no reason it wouldn't work.
Great, and Paul has asked, how are you sourcing real-time economic data when integrated with the hybrid model?
Yes, so basically the idea here is that we use optimization that has kind of like, in the chemicals industry, we've been using optimization tools for real-time optimization for 50 years, really. And so we're basically taking some of these tricks into the biogas sector, where you can look at, for example, real-time gas prices. I mean, in a way, a digester is a bit like a big battery. It could be. And if you are generating electricity from the system, you might have, real-time kind of market conditions on the where you're selling the electricity on that side, and then your input feeds are basically related to farmer costs, or even gate fees. So, for example, if you're a food waste site, you're basically being paid to take this waste, and whether you should take it based on, so we're basically weighing up, the idea really is to weigh up all of the pros and cons of whether you should purchase a type of feedstock and whether it's worth it for your business model given the current dynamics of the system. So that's kind of the idea, is it's a real-time optimization platform.
Okay, and Paul has asked the question, you said the market size is 65 billion, which is a big number. How was that calculated? Was that top-down?
That is just the overall worldwide biogas sector. So that's a very, very high number. I wouldn't put too much. It was just to give you an idea, because in the UK there are 700 sites. I'm not entirely sure what the market cap is, but a typical site, I would say, generates something between 500,000 to 2.5 million pounds per site, something like that in revenue. So that's let's say the idea in the UK.
Yeah, so the 65 million big market report, but you've got some bottom-up data as well. So one final question, just really quickly, Chris has asked, I think there are a couple of slides showing team. One was showing a team of 4, one was showing a really big team in front of 100,000 tons of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's the academic team, let's say, the ones that have done the work over the last 2 years of developing everything funded by UKRI, so those are postdocs and so on. That team that I showed you there are the ones that have been involved more on the business side. And that's basically it.
So the 4 is the business going forward, the 10 has done the academic work. Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Michael. And so, moving swiftly on to another in that infrastructure space, it is a delight to welcome Mickey and Vijay to the stage.
My name is Mickey, and this is Vijay, and we're here to present our platform, Aerobuild, where we are creating aerial technologies for tackling construction's toughest tasks. We are going to transform construction and are looking for commercial advisors and mentors to get us to launch within the next 18 months. Working at height is fundamental to all construction, yet remains inefficient, costly, and prone to delays. When construction companies are contracted by government to maintain our aging infrastructure, small yet critical at-height tasks are often put off and left to the last minute, leading to exorbitant costs when things finally fail. In the UK alone, there are 3,200 bridges which are substandard and at risk. This is estimated to cost over £1.6 billion to repair. And this is a combination of difficulty in acquiring skilled workers, the costs of planning, and the hiring of specialist equipment such as scaffolding. This combined together creates an unsustainable backlog of repair work in the UK. And surprisingly, there has been little innovation done to solve this problem in this sector until now. We have developed the world's first capability for precise autonomous construction using a drone, featured on the cover of Nature. Our patented platform consists of a drone with a delta arm manipulator combined with advanced stabilization algorithms to enable centimeter-level precision for material deposition. Compared to our competitors, Aerobuild enables small teams to go to site quickly and deploy our platform without the need for extensive access equipment, improving safety, management, and costs.
Based on our feedback working with the large construction consultancy firms, we've already identified coatings, cleaning, and spraying of bridges as obtainable markets that Aerobuild can do today. In the short term, we want to validate our MVP, helping us to secure partnerships with industry and real-world demonstrators, and gaining user feedback in a market that is currently sparse in competition. To enable growth, we want to leverage our existing contacts and networks in the UK and then expand that to Europe and the US. Longer term, we want to scale up our technical team. And with investment, we want to build new products and exciting services in in-air manipulation, helping Aerobuild to do more and capture the available wider market. From bootstrapping to launch, we're already working to our first milestone of creating an outdoor prototype, helping us to gain customer feedback, finalizing our prototypes, our products, and securing commitments with industry. Next year, we want a portfolio of projects, working with commercial partners to validate our business model, de-risk, and create that good foundation for future growth and launch in 2026. This is all underpinned by a world-leading team of academics from architecture, robotics, and construction. We're leveraging 2 million of UKRI funding, enabling us a 2 to 3 year head start, and that has already helped us build state-of-the-art infrastructure and our ability to attract the world's best talent.
As academics, we can build this exciting technology, but we realize that our barriers to entry are not technical. Therefore, we want your commercial expertise to help us supercharge our offering. We are looking for commercial mentors and advisors who can join us on our journey and help us with advice on business strategy, product development and commercialization, as well as team building within this deep tech market. We hope you'll talk to us later, and we look forward to meeting you so that we can tackle construction's toughest tasks. And let's build into the sky together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So remember, ask your questions through the form, and there are questions already coming in. So Jamie is asking the question, who are you already working and partnering with for this work?
So through our UKRI work, we've been working with companies like Arup, Atkins, and then now more specifically looking at contacts like Balfour Beatty, Kier, to get more specific in the bridge coating and repair sector. These are conversations that we need to have more of, and we recognize that we're at an early stage in the customer discovery journey, but that's something that we want to do in the short term, and we're currently doing to bottom out our offer.
Great. Helen has asked the question, do you have or need CAA approval?
Yes, I think is the answer there. We will need CAA approval, and this is something we recognize. Built into the next steps for when we go towards doing our industry demonstrators, we will require setting up an operational authorization and things like that. We will be looking to bring on specific drone pilots who have this experience to help us in this journey. In the meantime, we also have partnerships with EMPA in Switzerland, who have a new outdoor-indoor testing facility, which will allow us to do many of these tests without the need for the difficult authorizations.
Yeah. And to point out, we're both drone certified pilots as well, so we understand the process.
Great, and now Henry has asked a detailed question based on, I think, quite a lot of knowledge in the area. So there are a lot of drone companies and products already exist in the market. What is the key differentiation that's going to enable you to compete in the sector?
So in terms of our patents, it's focusing on the precise deposition and repair through an aerial system, and that's both the actual function of performing an autonomous deposition task, but then also the stabilization as well. And that includes perching onto structures and to enable a wider variety of tasks. So that's what we currently have at the moment.
And just to be clear, from the competitor landscape, there are essentially two companies that are our direct competitors. Yes, there are a whole bunch that are doing inspection, but we and two others are actually doing the in-air manipulation and direct contact. And this is including things like companies like window washing companies and companies who are currently doing non-destructive testing. And that's the competitive market.
Great. So there's a few questions that come in. Flavia and Ashok asking a similar kind of question, basically around the cost, the pricing, the kind of commercial model. So kind of what might it cost? What's going to be the model? How are you going to make money from this?
As cheap as possible. No. We've got some estimates. I mean, this is something that probably we can take on afterwards. So this is something that we're actively working on. We've got some initial pricing on how much it costs us to build these prototypes, but equally, that's something that we can reduce down, and it's not scary like sort of 20 grand upwards. It's lower than that, and that's reflecting on what we're offsetting. Directly, it's offsetting the need for scaffolding, and it's fitting within that envelope. As experts in building these devices, we're on that journey on thinking about how we can reduce the cost of that using more off-the-shelf devices so it's less unique, and that's part of our journey going forward.
And this is ultimately the reason why we're asking for your mentorship and advisement in these sorts of situations, because we're not entirely sure how it will best work within the actual market.
Okay, so there's a few questions that are kind of related, so I'm going to try and combine a few of them from like David, Paul, Ben have asked kind of how do you manage the autonomy of the UAVs and the manipulations of the risks that can occur due to any interference? Related question would be appropriate insurance cover. How do you make this feasible and operational?
So I think on that regulation point, again, I think that's something that, yes, we recognize that we need to work out. I guess...
So, yeah, I think one of the key steps in our milestones is this industrial demonstrator. And we hope through this industrial demonstrator, with working with partners, we can figure out some of these, the solutions to some of these problems, whether it be insurance, how to do health and safety, how to manage risks, and all of those sorts of things.
Great. So there's a question from Alex, is what sort of wind speeds can this work in?
It's not a fart. No, it is quite tolerant. We've got state-of-the-art controllers that can adapt to different external environments. We have in-house testing facilities where we can, in a control setting, explore this. So, if you're in Cambridge, you can deal with the winds in that environment, and that will then inform the types of settings, conditions that we need to perform these tasks. But yeah, that will have an impact on what we can do and when.
Okay, so one final question. This is from Robert. What are the size and weight restrictions of what the drone can actually carry out?
So our current prototypes have a payload around 2 to 3 kg, and at the moment that's enough for the types of depositions like painting, coating, spraying type tasks that would cover a large area. In principle, because we've now modularized a lot of our technology, we can change, we can adapt different platforms based on their size, geometry, depending on what's needed for the task. And again, that's part of our product and prototype discovery process.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. So we're moving swiftly on to our final sector. We've got 3 more startups to pitch, and they're all in the agri-tech, agri-robots environment. So the first up, I am delighted to welcome to the stage Matthew Howard.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Matthew Howard, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of TangleHold. We make robotic grippers that pick things that others simply can't. So, to help you to understand what our technology does, you can actually do a little experiment at home. Get yourself a bowl of fresh herbs and see if you can pick exactly 15 grams. Do it with one hand and do it in a single pick. Then do it again and again and again. In fact, do it until the end of the working day. This is what it takes to pack fresh herbs for UK supermarkets. This is rubbish work. Nobody wants to do it. It's cold, it's boring, it's tiring. In fact, over a third of UK producers report that they can't hire people to do this kind of work. You can understand why. This is wasteful and costly. Something like 60% of the turnover of some of these businesses is spent on employing people to do this kind of thing. So it's actually such a painful problem that one of the UK's largest suppliers to these major supermarkets paid us over the past 4 years to try to come up with a solution. So what did we do? We developed an entirely new concept in robot gripping based on tangling. So our patented technology allows us to pick complex, delicate, tangle-prone materials with accuracy, consistency, and ease. It's an entirely hardware-based solution, so it requires no sensing. The control is trivial. It's basically on-off type control. And we even have designs that don't require any power to operate. So I've talked a lot about food processing, but we're not a one-trick pony. We can pick many types of objects, including textiles, wires, mechanical parts. We can also pick net bags. We're quite excited about net bags because think to yourself, when you last bought oranges, how did they come packaged? In a net bag. This is really hard for most robots to handle. So who's behind this innovation? So we're a team of 4 co-founders, and we bring world-leading and award-winning expertise in robotics, machine learning, and material science, and we also have experience in entrepreneurship. Okay? I have over 20 years' experience working in the robotics and AI domain. What's our business model? So we plan to follow the tried and tested inkjet printer style business model. So printer manufacturers know they will sell you a printer. We will sell you the end tooling for our device. But then we will also get sustained income by selling the parts that our gripper needs to operate, in the same way that printer manufacturers sell you those ink cartridges in an ongoing way. What's our ask and what's our strategy? So we're looking for 800K investment to allow us to go from our current prototype to product launch and sales within 2 years. Our long-term strategy is that we will seek to be acquired by one of these major robotics companies, or alternatively, we will continue on until we get to IPO. So that's us. Please invest in us. You can contact me through the email address on the screen. My LinkedIn is on the QR code there, or, of course, come and chat to us after this event. Thank you very much.
Great. So ask questions through the form. I'll give you a moment. I can see one that has come through already. So Alice has asked the question, who are your main competitors?
So the majority of industrial picking outside of academic labs at the moment is done through suction cup type grippers. Okay? And these simply don't work for the kind of materials that I've showed you trying to handle. Some people are trying to apply fingered type grippers, and we've seen companies trying to sell those kind of fingered type grippers to try and pick this kind of thing. But these are highly inconsistent, and we have a lot of lab-based data in order to back that up.
Rob has asked a question about your patents. So are the patents granted? Which countries do they cover? What technology does it cover?
So we have filed Priority UK for a Priority UK patent, and we're expecting that to be granted early next year. So we're a long way through the process, and we've done a search report, and we've had very little come back in terms of that. We are planning from that stage, once we achieve UK sales, to expand internationally, and we think that we will go to probably China and the USA and Europe as our main areas that we'll seek patent protection.
Jonathan has asked the question, what happens to any material that drops with the product, and is it food safe?
Yes, absolutely, it is food safe. So we have a variety of designs. Some of them are simply water soluble, so you can wash them away. So during the processing of herbs, for example, we can wash them away. We have a design also that uses a food additive, an iron food additive, that is actually good for you. So if it gets left on your salad, it's actually a health benefit.
And a related question, Graham has asked, are there any potential health and safety issues with metal grippers left in the salad?
So absolutely, we are not going to be leaving bits of metal into people's salad. We are not that stupid.
Though, as you say, iron's good for your diet. So Liam has asked, how long does one of your gripper heads last before it needs replacing?
So the gripper head itself will continue indefinitely. I think the cycle time would be like many, many years. We plan to sell cartridges. We need to design the dispenser mechanism, but we plan to sell cartridges, which I would expect would last about a week. And I think we would probably sell those for approximately £30 each, which would lead to approximately £10,000 revenue over a year's operation.
So Graham has asked the question, are you looking, and again, a good buying signal, are you looking for multiple investors, and what kind of ticket size are you looking for? Maybe smallest ticket size and up?
So we have budgeted for about 800K, and we think that's probably the minimum that we'd need. We are happy to consider multiple investors, and we're also happy to increase the amount, which would allow us to move much more quickly into the market, of course.
Chris has asked a particularly detailed question. So he's like, great pitch, but a question of, do you really need to get investment funding for all of this, or could you do like asset funding, inventory financing against your future sales to fund the hardware, rather than just going to investors and getting the funding?
So I will have to say that we are mostly academics, so a detailed financial question like that, it would be great to have a chat with you about that and look at all these other options. We know what money we need to get to market and sales, but beyond that, we are happy to talk about other instruments.
And that comes back to the point of why we love getting people in the room together with these teams, because that is one of the great ways that you can really add value to these startups, is the advice of this is the way that you could navigate this. Henry has asked the question, is there any regulatory approval that's going to be required?
So we expect that we would need something like a UK CA mark in order to show safety as a product. Of course, there will be probably food safety regulations. So within that 800K, we've budgeted for consultancy services to help us reach regulatory compliance.
Great. And one final question from Richard, which is about team commitment. Are you going to go full-time? Are you going to move away from academia? Are there others in the team that are going to take that step?
So we've had discussions about this internally within the team, and 2 of us, including myself, would plan to go full-time on this, at least for the next 2 years, and probably beyond. Two of our colleagues would probably rather stay within research, but stay within having a foothold within this company.
Fantastic. So investors give you enough money, you can fully commit to the business, and away you go.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Matthew. And so a reminder, connect through the form, make sure you speak to the teams afterwards. And as I said, yes, the conversations you have, the questions that you ask, and for those of us that have been around the commercial world for years, often the questions will seem obvious and it will seem like just common sense. But actually for people who are at the start of this journey coming from academia, sometimes those obvious questions to us can be hugely transformational to the journey that the projects will go on. So make sure you take the time to ask the questions and share your wisdom with the team. So moving on with two startups to come, I'm going to welcome to the stage Vishu and Klaus.
Hello, we are Versatile Robotics. We're the Swiss Army knife of agri-food technology. As we've just learned from Matthew, about 60% of food production cost is around labor, and we're increasingly seeing these empty baskets in our supermarket. Labor availability impacts both cost and availability of our food, grower profits, wastage, and makes us increasingly reliant on overseas import. UK strawberry production alone is 1.7 billion per year. Now, how would you in the audience feel about turning up at an onion farm at 5 in the morning, putting on a gas mask, peeling 30 kilograms of onion an hour for 10 hours a day, 6 days a week? Well, robots don't mind doing this type of work. You just switch them on. My name's Klaus MacDonald-Meyer. I'm a roboticist at the University of Essex, and I've started Ultrasoc Technologies, where I've started with 2 people in my office, raised £20 million from VCs, grown the company to 60 people, supplying highly innovative products to the electronics industry and achieving a successful exit to electronics giant Siemens. This is my colleague Vishu Mohan, who's a world leader in agri-food robotics, and we're Versatile Robotics and will transform how food is produced.
And we want to transform how people work in such environments. So people are at the core of VRX technology. The focus of Versatile Robotics is on the most labor-intensive tasks that require direct interaction with the crop itself. So not just picking, cutting, transplanting, printing. Can you print on a plant? Imagine. There is a global demand for this technology, and it's on a constant growth trajectory. So we have 2 field-tested prototypes working with some of the most innovative growers in the country. Country's first vertical growing system for soft fruit, low-cost 3D printable gripper which can harvest the berries, a state-of-the-art picking speed of 2 to 5 seconds, and we are training the growers in the farm to use our robots. After that, we have adapted this technology to a completely different application, which is salad harvesting. It's a multi-purpose platform, that's why we call it as Versatile. What is the unique and disruptive capability? So the IP is on the hardware, which provides the necessary interaction with the crop itself, and the underlying software is recycled across crop types. Not just traditional farming, we work with more innovative growing systems. Vertical, so you double the production, you double the labor. Salad harvesting grows 14 times more per unit area, but introduces new workflows. To scale up, you need robotics. The business model, even using 2 robots for handling seedling transplanting, saves around 200K worth of labor and is a 7x return of investment to the grower. Similarly, for the strawberry harvesting, we validated it as a part of DEFRA's commercialization plan, and it gives a 25x return of investment. So even if you take 10% of the labor and have 50 subscriptions, it leads to 30 million in revenue over the next 4 years. Our journey actually started on the day of the national lockdown, March 18th, 2020. That's when we started working with Wilkin & Sons, the world famous jam makers. 2 years we focused on the strawberry harvesting, and then adapted it to salad crops with JEPCO, and now we have an increasing portfolio of growers from onions to substrate-free growing vineyards and even silkworms in India.
We're asking for a £1 million investment to scale up the company over the next 18 months and deploy 15 versatile robotics robots in 4 customer farms. Join us in this journey and transform how food is produced and how people work in these environments. You can see our robot in action in the demo area on the left-hand side. Please come and talk to us, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much indeed. So, reminder to ask your questions. There are a few that are already coming in. So Hans has asked the question, are you deploying 15 robots in one farm, or is it multiple farms that you're deploying?
The 15 robots are in multiple locations. The 6 are for the strawberry, 6 is for the salad. We are deploying 2 robots in a vineyard and 1 for an onion grower, which I'm visiting tomorrow afternoon.
And those customers that you're already working with doing those early stage testing, what kind of feedback are they giving you on your robot?
Precision, cost. Cost is the biggest barrier to entry for growers given the profit margin. So we have state-of-the-art speed, and every week we get new growers coming. So there is a significant amount of demand.
Great. And to that cost point, Anna has asked the question, how much will the robot cost the farmer?
Okay, it depends on the application. So for the salad harvesting, the robot costs 12K. For the strawberry picking, we are going to bring the cost to 10,000 per unit for one autonomous robot platform.
Great. And Chris is really concerned about these onions. Does the robot actually peel the onions?
No. There are machines which currently are being deployed to peel onions, but they do a terrible job. And in most cases, like in the food industry, the onions have to be presented in a structured fashion. So root down, head up. So there is a line of human beings which are trying to rotate these onions. And even if it is not completely peeled, then it has to be identified, it's partially peeled, and then a human does it. So we are starting with a simple task of rotating the onion and presenting it in a structured fashion to the machine, which still doesn't do the job properly, but then we will look at the full chain of automation.
Great. And Nitish has asked the question, there are a number of fruit picking robot startups that are currently out there. How do you differentiate yourself?
Differentiate in speed, 2.5 times faster than the nearest competitor. Cost 10K. There is no one who is providing an autonomous robot for 10K.
So speed and cost.
Speed, precision, and cost.
And C has asked the question of, are there direct competitors? Like who are the competition you've got to beat?
Currently, the direct competitor in the UK is Doctor Technology. There is also a US-based firm called as Tortuga. But there is a big space, there is a big demand. So if we don't look at the competition, we want to collaborate and learn from each other.
And it's important to add that that's just for strawberry harvesting, yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's got technology that can be easily transferred between different crops like ours.
Right, and there was a question in there about that versatility, and 2 sides. One, kind of what drives the different costs for the different fruits in terms of your versatility? What's driving that?
It's based on the kind of hardware we need for our specific devices, but the pricing is really derived off the saving we can achieve in terms of the labor cost. Yeah? Right. So we'll take a fraction of the labor cost saving that can be achieved.
Okay, and then Graham has asked the question of, it's versatile robotics. How versatile are the robots in terms of environment? Would any farm be able to use one of your robots?
That's the challenge we are taking on, and we have demonstrated it working with at least 3 or 4 different crop types and growers. So we want to bring versatility in agri-food specifically, but robotics also in general. That's why the company is called Versatile Robotics.
Great, and Q has asked a question. I can't help thinking this has a James Bond application, but have you considered security and defense as a market?
Yes, I do collaborate with BAE Systems, but I mean, at the moment we want to stay focused on agri-food, do something good there, and then diversify.
Great, and so one other question, a final question from Helen. What other startup and onboarding costs would there be for customers? Like, will they need to adapt their facilities, their processes?
So we are initially, we use this robotics as a service model as a way of deploying it. And the big advantage we have is that our technology allows us to do this really cost effectively. So we're in a situation where we're already getting the robot cost back within a fraction of the first year. So after that, we're producing
yeah,
revenue.
And just to add, I'm a big advocate of changing how the crop is grown and then embed robotics inside that environment. And that's why the early adopters have been very receptive, but at some point we also have to look at the smaller farms where this adaptability might not be so easy to achieve.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. Good. So a reminder to connect with Klaus and Vishu and any other startups. So we have one final pitch for you this evening. It is a pleasure to welcome to the stage Mark and Arshad.
Hello everybody, my name is Mark Onoda. I've been developing robotics or robots for about 20 years and made them move. I'm here today, doesn't automatically go forward, there we go, because the agricultural revolution is just 2 years away. But hasn't it been for the last 10 years? Haven't this been promised? And where are these robots going around our fields? I still not see them as being omnipresent. And that's something, despite the predicted growth and all the great innovations that you've heard about, I wonder why they're not out there. And that's really what we want to tackle. We've seen so many innovators, so many companies build fantastic platforms, fantastic AI solutions, and they don't get them out on the fields at scale. And why is that? Because they often underestimate what it takes to make these robots move and deploy them in real-world environments very, very quickly. So we see actually in the sector productivity is decreasing at the moment in agri-food. We need these robots. We've heard the stories about the actual challenges we have with workforces. So what we want to do is help businesses, even like one that you've just heard before, to get onto the fields quicker. And we want them to stop reinventing the wheel. We have cracked navigation, and we can help them to get out there and scale up very quickly.
Hello everyone, my name is Arshad and I work at JABAS. At JABAS, we stop reinventing the wheel. JABAS is an acronym for Just a Better Autonomy Stack. JABAS is 3 parts component. The first one is safe and reliable navigation system that works with most of the robots. The second one is AI accelerated deployment system that takes hours instead of weeks to map large environments, new farms, to deploy robots on them. And the last one is fleet monitoring system that can monitor hundreds of robots remotely instead of having an in-person presence to monitor them.
So what we are proposing is autonomy as a service, a worry-free package that makes the robots move about, that is reliable, insurable, safe, and scalable. We generate revenue through a subscription model where we charge day rates per robot operating in the fields, and an onboarding charge per platform to customize it to our interfaces at very affordable rates. So what markets are we looking at? You've heard about some of these markets already. But one of the easiest, the low-hanging fruit, if you want, is logistics. Just from automating transportation of fruits, we've talked to big strawberry growers corporations like Berry Gardens, for instance. We have estimated from these conversations that we can achieve a 50% productivity gain just from automating the transportation of crops. And just from that, there's a potentially 15,000 robots in the UK. And then we can add higher value propositions like automated harvesting. We've heard some of our partners in the pitch before, actually, who also need to move crops around and need to move robots around reliably. And then we look at AI and data services, right? We need these robots to really gather the data that feeds all the AI pipelines that we want to do for crop forecasting, yield forecasting, and so on. Just in the UK, there's 40,000 kilometers of strawberries. So we've built this on more than 4 million in research funding, mainly from Innovate UK with partners. We're based in Lincoln, the heart of the agricultural land. We've proven our technology already on 6 different platforms, currently in pre-launch phase, also with support from Ceres Agritech. And now we're asking you to join our journey. We want to launch JABAS very early next year, start right away with commercial trials, then get the first revenue in by 2026 with a few platforms, but quite a number of robots already, and then scale up to actually be profitable within 5 years' time. So, I'm Mark. I've been working on this domain for a while, not only as a researcher, but also to manage software packages in that domain. Arshad is with me, our expert, who's basically looking at these cloud-based services, deployment and monitoring and coordination. And Ibrahim is our core robotics software engineer who's made lots of different platforms work in different environments. So, what we're looking for is to join us on this journey, help us get started. We're looking for seed funding of around £900,000. And we're looking also for other robotics SME beyond our current partners to trial our products. Together, we should stop reinventing the wheel, and we would be very happy to talk to you about this a bit more. Thank you.
So one last time, this QR code to ask questions, and there's some questions already starting to come through. Rob has asked the question, what is unique about your technology?
Right, okay. So what I would say is, on the one hand, it's platform independent. So we actually have customized this to a number of platforms through standardized interfaces. Second is, it's not reliant as much on GPS as many others are, which means we can work indoors and outdoors. And most importantly, is the reactive planning for different types of robots that assures safe operation.
Okay, and Joe has asked the question, does your software stack use robot operating system or have a robot operating system interface?
Ooh, very good. Yes, anyone who wants to talk about these technical details, very happy. Yes, it's ROS2 compatible indeed. And a lot of these kind of components that we do are actually compatible with that. So yeah, we're not reinventing the wheel ourselves.
Sounds definitely like Mark would like a longer, more detailed conversation in the room afterwards to go through some of those details. Henry has asked the question, like, what kind of quantity of crops can be transported per robot per day?
Oh, per robot per day. Now this is a math question. So at the moment, the one platform that we currently work with a partner to make as a transportation platform that carries 8 crates of strawberries in one go. So it can do a round robin, basically go to several people, pick this up, whatever they've got ready. There's, what is in there? 10 punnets, no, 12 punnets per crate. You know, let me do the math later with you if you want to know the details, but you get a bit of a feel for it.
But I guess crucially, it depends on which robot platform you're integrating with. And
yes, exactly. But that's the type of typical capacity at the moment. I think most of the picking robots go around 8 crates, roughly.
Virginia has asked the question, are there any regulatory requirements that you're going to have to...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's plenty. So the team here was our core team that you've seen. The team is wider also from an academic point of view. We have an Innovate UK project that we're part of, and that one has one part is directly working with the BSI at the moment. So we're actually writing the regulation for autonomous harvesting machinery, and that is part of that. And in this project that we're currently in, funded through Ceres Agritech, we are also working with insurance companies. So we've been in contact with NFU Mutual and Lloyd's, for instance, to really kind of iron this out, because we want to provide the all-inclusive package, right, that you don't have to worry about autonomous navigation.
Great. And Helen has asked a related question. Which territories are you aiming at, UK or further afield? And then specifically, if in Europe, have you built in cybersecurity requirements to the hardware to address the EU Cyber Resilience Act?
That's a very specific question. So our first market is clearly the UK, but we've already trialed these robots out in fields in Greece, for instance, at vineyards, actually. In terms of cybersecurity, good question again. We're currently looking in particular around hardening from a cybersecurity perspective. There's a big chunk of one project we're running right now to look at that, also at asset protection, because some of our software runs on the machines. That also is around cybersecurity and encryption. So yes, it's in scope. I'm not familiar with the European Cybersecurity Act well enough, even though I'm originally German. Should probably know.
So, Helen, it sounds like you could share some advice and follow that discussion up in the conversation afterwards. Hannah has asked the question, so are you reliant on waiting on the mass rollout of robots by farms in order for you to be able to make money? Or are there enough robots on farms at the moment for you to start making this profitable at the current scale?
So what I see is that a lot of companies actually tried to get robots out at scale at the moment, and we've seen lots of startups actually failing to do this and scale this up, and that's where we want to step in. So the demand is absolutely also from this conversation we have from our partners that they want to get more of these robots out there. They crack the nut on manufacturing and how to actually produce them, and we help them to actually make them move, I would say.
Okay, and that relates to Sophie's question, which will be the last question that we'll ask, which is, so great, if I'm a customer, can you explain to me in really simple terms what the process is going to be? Do I buy a robot and then come to you to integrate it in my farm? Like, how is it going to work for the farmer?
So we expect that the customers are those companies who build robotic platforms. We also in the process of basically saying we have one bespoke platform model that is a kind of affordable one that we would offer directly as a full sort of autonomous package for you to put your sensors and cameras or whatever you have to deliver your data services on as well. But normally, I would say the customer for us is the developers of robotics platform, of harvesting platforms. We've got two partners who are interested in just automating transportation. They have affordable platforms that they want to make move. And they want to sell directly to the growers. So we can advise on that because we've got a good network, but it wouldn't be our prime target to go directly to farmers. We support that, and we will also monitor those robots as they're out there and working.
Brilliant. And Graham, just to finish, has said, loves the pitch and loves the jacket as well. So thank you very much, Graham. Thank you.
Thank you.
So for one final time, to remind you, do click on the Connect form. So any of the people that you've seen on stage this evening that you would want to follow up with, leave your details there and we can make those connections happen. But I would definitely encourage you to follow up directly in the room. So there's going to be more time in the room afterwards. So immediately after this, we're going to go back into those showcase rooms. You can see the demos. You can follow up with the teams. You can see already from some of the questions and some of the answers that have come through how helpful the knowledge you have in this room can be to these people. The knowledge that you take for granted could be transformational for one of these teams. We have seen time and time again the difference that those conversations can make, and then sometimes the connections that you might be able to make into your network that could help these teams to take that step forward. So I would beseech you and encourage you to get and talk to these people. Make the most of the opportunity. But from me, from the rest of the TAS Hub team, the RAIU team that have been helping to host this, and the Future Worlds team, thank you very much indeed for coming. I look forward for you staying around to talk to these teams, and we are serving a full 3-course sit-down dinner this evening that you are all invited to, so I'd love you to stay for that. And particularly, you will then get a chance to hear James talk further about the funding landscape for AI and robotics research here in the UK, what's happening right now, and how that will impact the pipeline of startup opportunities that will be coming through, and how that can connect into where you could go. So thank you very much indeed. That's all from us. Thank you.